Walk into any major grocery store in the United States, grab a brightly colored box off the middle shelf and flip it around. Read the ingredients list out loud. Go ahead. You will sound like you are reciting an incantation to summon a minor demon of industrial chemistry. Sodium hexametaphosphate, butylated hydroxyanisole, red 40, yellow 5, titanium dioxide. You are holding a box of breakfast cereal marketed directly to human children, but the back of the box reads like the inventory manifest of a petroleum refinery. How did we get here? How did the basic biological act of consuming calories turn into a daily game of toxicological Russian roulette? To understand this, we have to look at the fundamental difference between how two major global powers view the concept of food. This is not a debate about culinary traditions or recipes. This is a story about legal philosophy, corporate lobbying, and the aggressive, ruthless financialization of the human diet. In the United States, the food industry operates on a remarkably forgiving legal framework. It is built around a bureaucratic acronym called Generally Recognized as Safe. In theory, this sounds perfectly reasonable. In practice, it is a catastrophic loophole, big enough to drive a high-fructose corn syrup delivery truck through. Under the U.S. system, a chemical food additive is essentially presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Let us say a massive megacorporation invents a brand new synthetic preservative. Its sole purpose is to make a packaged pastry sit on a convenience store shelf for 6 years without growing mold. Who tests if this new chemical is safe for human consumption over a 50-year lifespan? Often, it is the corporation itself. They run their own internal, privately funded studies. They quietly conclude that their new, highly profitable chemical is perfectly fine. They assemble a panel of industry-friendly experts, declare the chemical GRAS, and start pumping it into the national food supply. The Food and Drug Administration, chronically underfunded and constantly out-lobbied, largely just nods along. There are currently over 10,000 chemical additives allowed in American food, and the FDA does not even know the exact number because corporations are not legally required to inform the government of every GRAS determination they make. In America, a food additive is entirely legal until it explicitly causes enough undeniable, widespread medical trauma to trigger a massive public backlash or a multi-million-dollar class action lawsuit. Now, cross the Atlantic Ocean and step into a supermarket in the European Union. You will find yourself in a radically different legal universe. The EU does not care about corporate convenience. They operate on something called the Precautionary Principle. This principle is built on cold, hard, protective logic. It states that if a new chemical additive might be harmful to human health, it is banned outright until the manufacturer can definitively, independently prove that it is perfectly safe. The burden of proof is completely flipped. In Europe, you do not get to use the general population as a massive, non-consenting biological science experiment. If there is a shadow of a doubt, the chemical is illegal, period. This deep philosophical divide creates a terrifying reality when you look at multinational consumer brands. The exact same global corporation will sell the exact same branded product in both markets, but the ingredients will look like they came from two different planets. Take something as simple and ubiquitous as a globally recognized fast food French fries. In the United Kingdom, the ingredients list is aggressively boring. Potatoes, vegetable oil, a little dextrose, and salt. That is a food. That makes logical sense. But grab that exact same carton of fries from a drive-thru in the United States, the ingredients list explodes into a multisyllabic nightmare. It includes things like dimethyl polysiloxane, an anti-foaming agent also used in silly putty and cosmetics, and tertiary butyl hydroquinone, a chemical preservative derived from petroleum. Why would a multinational company purposefully engineer two entirely different versions of the exact same fried potato? Do American taste buds inherently crave the subtle, earthy undertones of industrial silicone? Absolutely not. It all comes down to the ruthless optimization of corporate profit margins. Real ingredients, actual food grown in the dirt by farmers, spoil. They rot. They require careful transportation, delicate refrigeration, and perfect timing. That is incredibly expensive. But synthetic chemicals, they are immortal. They are dirt cheap to manufacture in a laboratory. They allow products to sit in warehouse storage for years without degrading, and they are scientifically engineered by flavor chemists to trigger the exact dopamine receptors in your brain that make you physically crave more of them. The American food supply has been systematically hijacked by accountants. The primary goal of the system is no longer to nourish the population. The primary goal is to maximize the shelf life of the asset and minimize the cost of goods sold. But the economic scam goes even deeper. The United States government heavily subsidizes the massive overproduction of commodity crops, specifically field corn and soy. This makes the absolute worst base ingredients for ultra-processed foods artificially cheap. The market is completely flooded with high-fructose corn syrup and hydrogenated soybean oils, which are then injected into almost 90% of the packaged items in the grocery store to act as cheap fillers. As a taxpayer, you are essentially paying the government to make the raw materials for junk food cheaper for mega corporations to buy. And what is the ultimate return on investment for this highly efficient, heavily subsidized, artificially flavored economic engine? A catastrophic public health crisis. The United States spends an astronomical amount of money on healthcare, yet we have staggering, unprecedented rates of chronic illness, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and heart disease. We are poisoning ourselves on the front end with subsidized, artificially engineered food products, and then we are bankrupting ourselves on the back end trying to manage the chronic diseases caused by that exact same food. It is a perfect, closed-loop economic ecosystem of suffering. The giant food corporations make billions of dollars making us sick, and the giant pharmaceutical corporations make billions of dollars treating our symptoms. The only loser in this mathematical equation is you, the consumer, staring confused at a bright red bottle of sports drink. Speaking of bright red, let's look closely at artificial dyes. Red 40, Yellow 5, Yellow 6. These are synthetic petroleum-derived dyes that are banned or heavily restricted across much of Europe because numerous studies have linked them to hyperactivity and severe behavioral issues in children. In the EU, if a company absolutely insists on using these synthetic dyes, the product must carry a terrifying, legally mandated warning label stating that it may have an adverse effect on activity and attention in children. Unsurprisingly, when faced with putting a literal hazard warning label on a box of breakfast cereal or candy, European food manufacturers magically figured out how to use natural colors like beetroot extract, paprika, or turmeric instead. But in America, no warning label is required, so the corporations continue to dump millions of pounds of synthetic petroleum dyes into breakfast cereals, sodas, and children's snacks every single year. Why? Simply because it is a fraction of a cent cheaper than using actual fruit juice. They know exactly how to make the food safer. They do it every single day in Europe. They just choose not to do it here because the law does not force them to, and it protects their bottom line. We have been deeply conditioned by decades of advertising to accept that food is naturally supposed to be neon-colored, practically immortal, and fundamentally addictive. We have passively accepted a system where the massive burden of avoiding industrial toxins is placed entirely on the exhausted shoulders of the consumer, who just wants to navigate the grocery aisles after a 10-hour workday without needing a degree in biochemistry. But looking across the ocean proves that this is not a law of nature. It is a legislative choice. The next time you pick up a packaged snack and the ingredients list reads like the back of a shampoo bottle, put it back on the shelf. Because you aren't buying food, you were buying a highly optimized, legally protected financial asset, and your body is the one paying the ultimate price. I'm Norman, and I suddenly feel the overwhelming urge to go eat a plain, unbranded apple.